Hello, I'm just your average ordinary American. I'm not making any money on this video and I'm not associated with anybody. I am an American who believes in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the American flag, the Pledge of Allegiance, and 4th of July. Behind me, I believe in that flag too. That's the Don't Tread on Me flag that was carried by the Continental Marines in the Revolutionary War. That's where it originated from. This video is a little bit different. This is for Republicans. I'm afraid this country's headed for a civil war. The last video I did, I talked about how the left needs to acknowledge their behavior and their part that a civil war is coming. Now I want to talk about my Republican friends. I want to address why I'm dressed kind of goofy. I'm trying to look as like a commoner who's really into American. I'm inspired by World War II, and I kind of want to look like 40s, 50s type of person, what they would have wore to a parade or something. So there's a reason why I'm kind of dressed this way. As you see, this is the flag raising of Iwo Jima, and this is planes from World War II. The World War II generation really inspires me. I think they are the greatest generation, and because I'm conservative, a lot of the 60s generation doesn't inspire me at all. My parents are from the 60s generation, and my grandparents mainly raised me because of how much of a putz on basically how my parents were in the 60s, from the 60s. It's hard for me to get behind a bunch of hippies dancing around trees. I'm going to be honest. If you are politically correct, if you believe in politically correctness, wokeness, I'm going to offend you, and I don't really care. But anyways, back to the main topic. Part of the reason I'm dressed this way is because I'm going to quote Dwight Eisenhower, and he said something very important. And this message is mainly for Republicans, for all those kind of wimpy Republicans who don't want to stand up for anything and who don't understand why we kind of left you hanging there in Georgia, and kind of why we were a lot of conservatives are willing to follow Trump but aren't willing to follow you. Why don't conservatives want to follow Republicans? This is kind of what this is about. So I'm going to start with a quote by Dwight D. Eisenhower, who is one of our guys. And I want to mention, he was a Republican, but he is also the one who sent the troops in to uphold the Supreme Court's decision on segregation. So Dwight D. Eisenhower stated, "The spirit of man is more important than mere physical strength, and the spiritual fiber of a nation than its wealth." I wish we'd all remember that. Just because you're rich, that doesn't mean you're strong. The Bible is endorsed by the ages. Our civilization is built upon its words. In no other book is there such a collection of inspired wisdom, reality, and hope. I know I talk about the Bible, but I don't care. Our nation, like it or not, was founded on the principles of Christianity and Jewishness, and being Jew. Judeo-Christian values. Sorry. So, I want to quote probably one of the greatest Republicans ever, President Lincoln. And I wish the Republican Party would find inspiration in our leaders who stood up for stuff. Lincoln did. For him to stand up during the Civil War took guts, took balls. Where is the Republican Party with balls? But here's something that also relates to why today's conservatives aren't necessarily willing to follow the Republican Party, but's willing to follow Trump. And if you're a left person watching this, maybe you can learn something from this as well. Common looking people. This is what President Lincoln said on December 23rd, 1863. And he said this to John Hay. I don't know who that is, to be honest. But common looking people are the best in the world. That is the reason the Lord makes so many of them. Why do I mention common people? Us common people think that you Republicans, you talk to us, you tell us you're supporting us, but you don't. You're always afraid. Republicans are always afraid of the media and always kiss Democrats' ass. No offense to Democrats. If you understand what I'm saying, lockdown is not lockdown, but some disagreement's good. You can't have everybody agreeing all the time. That's communism. That's communism in a nutshell. And like I said, this is more for Republicans, the classic, what I'll call the classic Republican, the wimp classic Republican since Roosevelt, who doesn't want to stand up for anything. Now, there's been exceptions, like Cruz is an exception, but a lot of us Republicans are just, I'm repeating myself, I just do that. But a lot of us Republicans are sick and tired of Republicans kissing Democrats' butts. The reason progressives have gotten so powerful is because you Republicans don't stand up for nothing. You don't really stand up for what us patriots want. So we went to Trump, and you still didn't get it. You didn't support Trump in all this election cheating. I know there wasn't any. Give me a break. You couldn't prove it, maybe, but there was election cheating. Now, a suggestion, if you really did some digging and it took a year and a half, well, maybe we could get some good election reform and kick out some of the people who cheated, and it'd make both parties look good now, wouldn't it? Just a food for thought. You know, if all of a sudden Democrats were honest and said, yeah, we found out about some cheating over here, and you gave that information to Republicans, maybe you could get rid of some of your extreme progressives. Just an idea. Like I said, I'm not associated with anybody. I'm not part of politics at all. And I can figure that out. Everybody saves face and you get rid of the people who cheated. Yeah, I think there's enough Democrats out there who, if you came up and were honest and said, you know, we found this cheating, it'd go a long way to actually mending fences instead of trying to impeach a bunch of people and call our party Nazis. That's not going to win any hearts or minds. Now, this is mainly supposed to be for Republicans. Why would a patriot follow a Republican? Why would we follow you? As soon as the media chirps, you're like, oh, I gotta back down. I'm scared. You bunch of wimps. So I'm going to read something also. Okay, I kind of lost my page. I apologize. I'm not a professional. I'm just doing this because mainly for me, just so I feel better, feel like I'm involved. So again, I don't want a civil war. I believe the first part is the left needs to admit their wrongdoings. Go up there and admit your wrongdoings. At the very least with this election, go, okay, we had a bunch of incompetent boobs running stuff, and we can see why Republicans would think there's cheating. At least do that. Can't you at least do that? Where's the classic liberal from Pennsylvania and go, well, yeah, we had some real incompetent boobs. We need to fix the shit. No, we're going to impeach Trump. Ugh. But here's something. In 1865, this is again Abraham Lincoln. I'm going to read two more quotes. In 1865, shortly before Lee's surrender, Abraham Lincoln began his second term. In visiting with the state senator James Scoville of New Jersey, he stated, young man, if God gives me 4 more years more to rule this country, I believe it will become what it ought to be. what its divine author intended to be. He's talking about God. No longer one vast plantation for breeding human beings for the purpose of lust and bondage, but it will become a new valley of Jehoshaphat, where all the nations of the earth will assemble together under one flag, worshiping a common God, and they will celebrate the resurrection of human freedom. Now, no matter if you believe in God or not, that's Lincoln is an example of how you really build fences, how you fix fences. He was trying, he got assassinated, so it got all messed up. But he was actually trying. Is Biden? Not really. But then you Republicans, you're not helping either by just sitting on your butts, just letting Democrats do whatever they want. And you've been doing that since Roosevelt. Again, the reason we liked Trump was because he stood up for something. You know? And then here, this is another quote. This is a longer one, but I think it's important. In Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, March 4th, 1865, just 45 days before his assassination, President Abraham Lincoln gave his historic speech reflecting on the war between the North and the South. I'm not going to read all of it, but I think that this, maybe I will. Neither party expected for the war the magnitude or the duration which it has already attained. Do both sides really believe there's a civil war? Both sides should consider it because we're awful close. You Republicans need to stand up for the principles here in the United States, or those conservatives that you keep on annihilating will feel that the only response they have is a civil war. We felt that the only guy, a lot of us on the right felt that the only guy who was defending us was Trump. That's why we left you hang there in Georgia, which might be a bad thing in the long run. But we are so irritated that no one in the Republican Party came out to even, only a few, came out to say, yeah, let's really look into this. You didn't do anything before the election to stop the cheating. You didn't come out and say anything against it. And then you didn't do anything to stop these internet tech people from taking over. What are we supposed to do? You don't want Trump? Start standing up for us. This is important. And to the left, you got to start acknowledging the faults of your party and what you do. And you got to cut yourself off from the socialists. So here's, or acknowledge that in your party there's extreme socialist, anti-American assholes. That'd go a long way to bridging gaps. But oh no, we don't have any of those. Really. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to start over. Neither party expected for the war, and he's talking about the Civil War, the magnitude or the duration which it has already attained. Both read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each invoke his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any man should dare ask just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of another man's face. But let us judge not, that we be not judged. The prayers of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. The Almighty has his own purposes. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come. But woe to that man by whom the offenses cometh. If we shall suppose that American slavery is one of those offenses which in the providence of God must needs come, but which, having continued through his appointed time, he now wills to remove, in that he gives to both North and South this terrible war as the woe due to those by whom the offenses came, shall we discern therein any departure from those divine attributes which the believers in a living God also ascribe to him. Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. Yet if God will that it continue until all the wealth piled by the bondsmen's 250 years of unrequited toil shall be sunk, and unto every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword, as was said 3,000 years ago, so shall it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether, with malice towards none, with clarity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. Now, I believe on the right, a socialist doesn't care about God, doesn't care what he says. But I do believe that there's a lot of classic liberals who do. And you Republicans claim to do. But do you have balls like Abraham Lincoln? Do you really have the strength and the backbone to stand up for what was right, like the original Republican Party? We need that. And as much as you Democrat Party say that you're for black people and you're for minorities, you've always been against them. You're the party for Joe Crow laws. You're the party who was against the reforms Abraham Lincoln said. So stop lying about who you are. I'm tired of it. The right is tired of it. And the right is tired of you accusing us of being racist. And I'm tired of the Republican Party, and a lot of Republicans and conservatives who aren't racist are tired of every single time the Democrat Party says we're racist, you back down and act like wimps. If both sides want to avoid a civil war, you as Republicans got to start standing up for something. Now, one of the reasons I wrote about that, what Abraham Lincoln said about common people. You shit on us common people. You Republicans shit on us common people in a different way that Democrats do. Democrats shit on the common people because you promise all this stuff. You say you're going to do all this stuff, and the things you do actually don't help people, but you convince them they do. You've done a great job at building people the projects, and then you get them, you get them all to support you, and you get them emotional, and they're the uneducated voter. I apologize. I'm not going to apologize for that. The Democrat Party, you use the uneducated voter, and you shit on your common people, and you get them to vote for you even though you keep them poor. You Republicans, you don't want to acknowledge that there's common people anymore. What you do is you're like that father who doesn't want to admit that they got certain children. In a way, you're kind of acting some like a Democrat. You come out and you get us excited about what you're going to do, that you defend freedom and you defend stuff, but you really don't. As soon as a Democrat lips its mouth, you kiss its ass. What I'm always reminded of, what the Republican Party reminds me of, is that scene in Braveheart. I'm referring to a movie now, the movie Braveheart, where the nobles in the movie, when the nobles backstabbed Wallace. But Wallace came back and killed the nobles. I'm not justifying anybody getting murdered. But I do wonder where the eagles are. What's an eagle? An eagle is an American who believes in the Constitution, believes in Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights, believes in the flag, believes in the don't tread on me, believes that the government doesn't have the right to take away censorship, to use censorship, and to overtax us and everything. Now, what's pissed off the right and what's pissed off us as Eagles about you Republicans is you always say, well, we're not for high taxes until a Democrat lips its mouth. Then you go, well, we're going to tell our people we're for, and then vote for higher taxes. You're afraid of the media. Trump wasn't afraid of media, and we cheered him on. You're afraid of what they say. Republicans, if you really want to be supported and not leave you hanging there in Georgia, actually come out and see what we need. Trump did that. Trump visited Iowa. Trump visited Wisconsin. What do you guys do? Well, we're gonna lose anyway. Like the Republican Party in the Minnesota are really wimps. Oh, Democrats are gonna win anyway. How come you don't send representatives in the urban areas? The reason Democrats can run every urban area is because you're afraid to send anybody in there. So what if you lose? At least try. Wimps. This pisses. I am so frustrated. And again, the right will win a civil war. But what do you think we're going to do with rhinos? And like I said, I don't want a civil war. It's bad for the country. It's bad for people. But if you Republicans don't want a civil war, you got to start standing up. There's been some people who've left the Trump administration are going, hey, look at what good things Trump did. He was doing a lot of good things. And the best thing about Trump, and the reason Republicans were for Trump and not for you, not for the rhinos, is because you rhinos, you wimp, lack of backbone Republicans, don't stand up for nothing. You are more worried about Democrats in the media than you worried or care about us. Care about us. Stop kissing ass of Democrats in the media. Stand up for something. Where are you? You sit there quiet. Oh, I wish this wasn't happening. Well, if you don't want a civil war, you got to start standing up. Stand up for something. Really stand up for the Constitution. Really stand up for the Bill of Rights. And more importantly, stand for the common people. I'm going to reread what Abraham Lincoln, just to remind you. And he was a Republican. You know? If I can find it. Here it is. On December 23rd, 1863, President Lincoln related to John Hay. Common-looking people are the best in the world. That is the reason the Lord makes so many of them. The problem with you, Republicans, is you want to poo-poo us. You want to set us off to the side. You only want us for your votes. Just like Democrats only want black people for their votes. So why, when you call out to us and say, hey, support us, all of a sudden no one's there? It'd be nice if you took off your suits once in a while and came and visited a farm in Iowa. It'd be nice when you're in a speech at a 4th of July and you say you want to defend the principles of the Constitution. They actually mean it. Or you only mean it until the media yells at you. Do what you say. Start doing what you say. You don't want a civil war? Again, I'm just a guy. And these videos suck. to be honest. But I hope I'm keeping it real. If you Republicans don't want a civil war, you got to find a backbone. If you think you're hiding the fact that us common people don't see that you just kiss ass at the Democrat Party and you have no backbone, you're sorely mistaken. No. I hope everybody prays for this nation. And I hope that this nation survives. And maybe you Republicans can start fighting for freedom of speech. Start fighting for what us Republicans, us conservative, patriotic Republicans want. The right to own a gun. The right to raise a flag. The right to free speech. The right to run a business. And where are you Republicans fighting all these draconian Democrat governors? And just on a side note with the courts, if all you judges continue to ass kiss the socialists, and you're going to regret one day being more afraid of the left and Democrats than you are of the right. I want to remind you of some history. Back to World War II, I just thought of this. Both Hitler and Japan thought that they could take us out, that we were weak-minded. But Japan, when they bombed us in December 7th, 1941, they woke up a sleeping giant. Now, the Republican Party, because you lack a backbone, you're waking up a sleeping giant. You Democrats, you socialist, anti-Americans, you are waking up a sleeping giant. And here's my theory. If the right, you on the left, do not understand what a civil war would mean to the right, you will lose. Then you compromised Republicans. What's going to happen to you? You don't want that to happen? You don't want all the civil war? Again, I don't want to. Both of you need to start doing the right things. On the Democrat Party, where's the classic liberal? And on the Republican Party, where is there anybody with some balls? Don't know how else to say it, or a backbone. Now, if neither one want to show up, where are the Eagles? And it's about time the Eagles start showing up. A true Eagle isn't going to protest and act like a dumbass in front of the Capitol. A true Eagle is not going to protest like the left. But the left should be afraid of the eagle. An eagle is an American who believes in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, protects the flag, protects all the rights in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and takes that seriously. Well, anyway, so I'm going to repeat myself, but everybody, please pray for this nation. Pray that it might survive. Anyway, may God bless you all.